quite often with some of the food or beauty brands that we've worked with, although they'll have beautiful global assets that we may be able to use here, they're not always going to resonate as well with the audience here.
Everything get much more like more expensive in like places or all the tools, pretty much everything. My experience, the rates, what the clients are able to pay.
But tricky and it's case by case, right? You think about AI becoming almost ubiquitous with all software and technology, the net value of AI is zero. If everything has AI in it, there's obviously value, but there's almost no real differentiatable value.
So, hi everyone, this is Mike on podcast, Mike speaking. As you can see, guys, we are a bit different environment. That's because we are in Australia, in heart of Sydney, and I'm so happy that I can introduce you my first host here, who is David Easton, my best friend here in Australia and probably the longest one. David, please, could you introduce yourself a bit?
Hey guys, I'm David Easton. I run a agency in Australia called Reborn. And I've done that for about 15 years. And prior to that, I guess I was starting my career in digital media and sort of brought that into the agency space. And yeah.
Okay, David, thanks a lot. I mean, like, when we first met, it's probably something like 4 years ago, and it was even like before COVID time. And could you tell us, like, past years how your agency changed, or what was the challenges past years? Because definitely COVID was one of the biggest challenges for all of us. But what do you think, like, what you are nowadays?
Look, I think being in business for 15 years, we've weathered many storms. You know, whether it's the GFC or just changes in the digital landscape, introductions of new technologies and things like that. It's been quite a ride, and I think, you know, none more so than the last couple of years with the pandemic and the changes of how people are doing work and what clients need from agencies. And I think probably the biggest shift, like many businesses found, was that shift to working from home. And changing the way we sort of interact with our clients from, you know, having them in the office all the time or going to their offices to now being much more remote and distributed. And I think for us as an agency, you know, the pandemic's a couple of years ago now and sort of a little bit in the rearview mirror, but a lot of the changes that we implemented then to survive, and to make it work, we've maintained. And I think, you know, sort of shifted the culture of the agency a little bit around that now. Previously, we've had big offices, you know, big, beautiful warehouse conversions like this sort of a space here. And, you know, 20, 30, 50 staff all in one office. And that's been a huge... Obviously, with the pandemic, all of that had to change. And we ended up getting rid of our offices and actually changed our hiring strategy to be much more looking at people outside of Sydney, looking at people who are more interested in remote part-time work, freelancers, building up a massive network of freelancers that we can tap into. And coincidentally, I guess a lot of our clients ended up not being in Sydney as well. So we started to work more with clients in Melbourne, in Queensland, in Singapore, New Zealand, and that became even less of a need for us to have a big physical office space for clients to come in and meet, and you know, even greater reliance on technology to make our team culture work and engagement with clients.
That's actually what I wanted to ask. Yeah, this is what I wanted to ask, because I can imagine that you can make it work. You have to make it work, although like remote work and things like that, even with the clients and stuff.
Yeah.
But still, a huge part of your works are creativity and creative working process. Do you feel like there's this like somehow has changed? Like, did you started to do more like brainstormings online with some new tools like Miro and things like that, or how does it work nowadays? Because my experience in our agency in Prague, it's still much better where people can sit around one table, but it's easy because the distances around the cities are not that crazy far as you have it here. So what do you...
No, totally. And you know, one of the, I guess, more typical workshop processes that we would run with clients is more of a branding workshop. And, you know, historically, you would get the clients in the room, you would run facilitated sessions, you would have your Post-it notes everywhere. Sort of exercises that you would take them through building, you know, brand stories and personality archetypes and things like that. And shifting the workshop process to an online process actually flowed pretty well because of tools like Miro, as you mentioned. We were able to really sort of structure out the different phases of our workshop model. We were able to still facilitate that workshop through an online environment and then get interactivity and even break people out into groups and things like that. So, you couldn't have done that 10 years ago, but the technology these days is incredible. And it's even becoming easier to facilitate with built-in tools like breakout rooms and AI integration for different suggestions and things like that as you're running it. So, I don't think we've had a big struggle moving our existing processes into a remote version of it.
Okay.
I think when it comes to brainstorming and creative sessions, there absolutely is a flow that you get when you're in the room with somebody else that's a little bit more hard to replicate when you're sitting on the end of a webcam. And I think for those sorts of moments, although Australia is a big country, it's still pretty easy to fly people in, and so we would just get people into Sydney and come into an office space like this and work together.
Let me just jump into it. I'm a bit afraid that the microphone is not working. Let me check. Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. It's the first time here, so I rather double check it now. Yeah, as you can see, we are in studio. It's always like in mic on, like we are not pretending to be some movie scenes or something like that. I rather double check it now.
Yeah, not green light.
Yeah, sorry. No, all good. Yeah, great to mention, because I was thinking that you already had this experience in past that you guys were working. You had the UK office actually, and
Melbourne
office. Yeah. You already did the remote work somehow even before COVID, even before.
Yeah, and look, probably that is one of those distinctions that the comparison to now, where technology has made that easier. Melbourne was not an easy sort of task for us to run those sort of same sessions because the technology wasn't there. That's back in 2013, 14. So going back quite a bit, where even just file sharing was a little bit more of a hassle, and being able to work on, artwork from two offices just was a little bit more of a pain. Now, cloud and
a lot of tools became also like collaborative. I mean, like I remember when we used to do the stuff in Photoshop and things like that. Nowadays in Figma
and Jump Stream,
and they're like 5 people are doing on the same thing, things like that. Yeah. It became really natural, but still, I'm personally sometimes missing like when I don't have a chance to meet with some people in person because the, let's say, empathy, maybe our energy when we're talking straight to each other, helping maybe sometimes better understand than on cameras. And also I hate that some people still don't want to have camera turning on. Yeah. So you are just guessing like if they are listening or not. I mean, especially when you are in a pitch, like have you had this experience where you are pitching some new client and some of the clients had the turn off camera and you are just watching the presentation and trying to imagine like how they
engaged, not even there.
They are just like feeding their kids or something like that. It's difficult. It's definitely like one of the challenges what we are facing now. I also hear that big companies have this challenge too, especially with the effectivity that the people spread to the even different countries and working remotely, and then want to try to get them back, and especially when the expensive areas, maybe like Sydney or like San Francisco. Or
most of my clients are now sort of talking about 3 or 4 days in the office again. I don't think many that I'm aware of have pushed everybody back to 5 days, which is good. I think there's still a requirement that there's a bit of balance in life, and traffic in Sydney is crazy, and transport is a challenge. So having a little bit of balance in your week is ideal. And when you get to my age and you got family and all the rest of it, there's other requirements that mean flexibility has been, a higher priority. And I think that's now how we hire our staff, and the sort of flexibility we want to offer in the workplace for Reborn is it has to be around that.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of new normal now. So people even expecting you let them work like that. 100%. That's true. Yeah. When you mentioned the global clients, or you said that some of your clients sitting in Singapore, some of them maybe somewhere around the world, can you tell that the Australian marketing is somehow specific, or you already see, because when you're working with the global clients, there are always like things like that these clients trying to use the global campaigns, global assets, or even like from a different culture aspect assets. Do you see that the Australia is somehow specific in that way? Or
I think there are definitely nuances to our market, especially, even compared to New Zealand. There are always nuances.
Okay.
And there's an expectation of local specific messages that speak to the Australian audience rather than global. But it is funny, like, since we started the agency, I've had the great pleasure of being able to work on a lot of global brands that are trying to market to Australians, and then a lot of Australian brands that are either going or growing within the Australian market. And tourism boards, for example, trying to, incite the Australian audience to travel overseas, like Singapore or Ireland. You have to know what the Australian audience is looking for, and often it's quite hard for an overseas tourism board to do that without having someone here to help them with that communication.
Of course.
And quite often with some of the food or beauty brands that we've worked with, although they'll have beautiful global assets that we may be able to use here, they're not always going to resonate as well with the audience here. I think that's changed a lot with how celebrity endorsements used now. Influencers are a lot more locally. So there's been a lot of change in what works from a beauty perspective. Same for FMCG. Often there's local requirements,
different
local packaging, things like that. That means we have to reshoot here or shoot something specific for Australia.
Also, I see a lot of difference about the, food preferences. I mean, like you guys are a lot into, let's say, plant-based stuff and things like that, which in some countries in Europe are still on the way in the development, but you are like against it, much more on the higher level. So I can imagine that something what's becoming now popular in some countries in Europe is already standard here, which could be a big difference.
How many milks do you have in your cafes over there?
Like basically you have the regular one, and then you have like oak one or the other ones, but you have to pay like almost twice sometimes or something like that, and people are looking like, that's the weird guy who is drinking
I think as you've seen, we've probably got 4 or 5 milk standard now choices.
That's crazy, but I like it, and I believe that it's something what is coming as a trend in Europe too, but it's on the way. And it also depends on the country, because where you are, like French, for example, has some traditions regarding the coffees, or Italians, so it's a bit hard to disrupt the market, which is part of kind of culture something. But you all guys have pretty nice, let's say, coffee society something like.
The coffee culture is pretty strong.
Coffee culture,
in Melbourne as well.
Back to your agency. You are guys independent agency here. It's a big topic, even like in Europe or in US. We also independent agency, so I know how is it sometimes tough actually to kind of fight for your piece of meat on the market when you have these big players like WPP and Publicis and the other ones. What do you think about nowadays? Is that like, are there many of independent agencies?
There is, and it's a growing space. And I think we sort of sit across creative and media as an indie, and that's worked very well for us over the past couple of years to understand not just the creative needs for a brand and what we need to do from a marketing perspective, but also from a media perspective, how we actually need to deliver that, whether that's through digital, social, above the line campaigns. And so being able to sort of straddle both of those has given us quite a good commercial advantage for some of our clients, because it means we either can work well with their larger media agencies, or we can do everything, and help them sort of better connect to their consumers. I think the space for indies has grown a lot in the past couple of years, both for creative and for media. And, recently we joined the IMAA, the Independent Media Agency Association for Australia, and it's been a fantastic group for us to get into. They've offered quite a lot of training, access to publishers, and broader group deals for the association. And that's really helped, I think, as a media agency, get, I guess, better cut through and better recognition with publishers. So when we are doing the planning and the deals for our clients' media campaigns, we're able to have a more even playing field. Obviously, you're not going to get some of the buying rates that
the big ones. Yeah, of course.
But I don't feel like we're coming in short anymore.
I really like actually the idea. It's just the Independent Agency Association, because we are part of the Association of Advertising Agency in Czech.
Right.
But it's more like that we are both sides together there. So there are also big players and small players. And, we all understand what are the advantages of sides. But I understand that being able to get together all the indies and working together with all the strengths of against to play a little. It's a little bit more like it makes sense. Yeah.
Like the market's big enough, but I think it is good to have that sort of network that we're a part of, and even just to sort of talk with other agency owners and understand the currents that everybody's in has been a huge help for me over the past couple of years. So
Yeah, David told me like past years, I'm pretty much sure it's same here. The costs just grow up thanks to everything get much more like more expensive, even like places or all the tools, pretty much everything.
Yeah.
But in my experience, the rates what the clients are able to pay didn't grow that fast. I mean, like the costs grow like, I don't know, 15-20%.
Yeah.
But the rates, like to say like 10, sometimes 5.
Cost negotiations are always a tricky.
Yeah. We're saying hi to all the purchase departments around the world and procurements. Yeah. So how do you guys are actually dealing with that? Is it more like
it's tricky and it's case by case, right? Because, if we're dealing with a global FMCG company, they have a procurement division that's in another country that's basically just driven to drive 5% every time you renegotiate your contract. So that's part of the game. It's not
is it like in Europe, like they say hi and they say like 5%? And on your to endpoint you said for
some conversations similar to that, not exactly like that, but similar to that. But it is what it is, right? Like, and there's obviously a point of negotiation still to be had, even if they are procurement in another country somewhere else. But, you've got to weigh that up as a business owner on how you're going to do that, how you still make it work and still make the margins that you need to make the business healthy. And then, there's varying degrees of that depending on what sort of stage of the relationship you're in and whether you're coming in on creative or media.
Yeah, 100%.
So, one of the things for us has been that because we do have both sides of the coin, we've been able to sort of, I guess, provide value to our clients in different structures. So whether it's, hopefully not all time-based service, but or, media sort of percentages, some sort of value of service performance, being able to have sort of different conversations depending on what the client is better geared to do.
Yeah, that's another topic what I wanted to ask you, if you have a chance to actually apply some kind of value-based pricing, not just the hourly rates, because it's another topic.
It's harder with our clients because less of them are e-commerce based. So
so it's pretty clear what you're buying.
Yeah. And so it's, as we sort of look into 2024, we're starting to sort of look more at the retail media networks and how we can take some of our work with FMCG branding and social and digital, and then look at what's happening with Woolworths and Coles, which are the two big grocery chains out here, and connect those two. So potentially more value-based pricing could come into it. But it's still very early days.
Yeah, sure. Are you guys collaborating to each other, like even on the agency roles? Like if you, for example, sometimes do some kind of alliances on the clients, like 3 indies get together. One is more like a branding one, another one is more like a media strategy something, and then you collaborate together.
I mean, absolutely, agency villages definitely work for us. So with clients like Kraft, we would sit in an agency village with a PR agency, media agency, maybe a shopper, depending on what brand it is, and us as the digital. And the collaboration on campaign work, absolutely.
Yeah. Is it still like that you need to put a lot of work into the pitches? Because I remember we did a couple pitches even together. We spent on hours in nights and mornings thanks to 8 or 10 hour difference between Europe and Australia. But I remember it was kind of same as in Europe. Like if you want something, you need to invest like hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
Like almost get the job done.
It's one of those things where again, it depends on the client. And we have seen in the last couple of years clients coming through and saying, we're not pitching like a normal pitch. We want to make it just chemistry. And you still do a bit of a tap dance, obviously, but at least I think clients are starting to recognize the impact of traditional pitching.
Yeah.
So, the last couple of pitches or new business engagements have been more chemistry. But it's not to say that it's all that.
Oh, yeah. It's getting better.
It's getting better. I think there is an awareness, and certainly the language they're using is that they recognize the cost and the impact, and they don't want to do that.
Oh my God! Thank God for it. Yeah, it's happening.
But there's still clients out there that do it. So.
Oh yeah. It's same in Europe. I finding out that there are big discussions, but there is still not like the action steps. So I believe that a lot of clients are already aware that it costs a lot and it's not sustainable to do it like with every single pitches and things like that.
It's hard. You can imagine from a client's perspective, they potentially don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they want to buy. They feel like they need to see it.
That's true.
And sometimes seeing another brands as an example isn't enough for them. So I get it. It does make sense, but a lot of work goes into pitching, obviously.
Yeah, one of the things what you mentioned and nowadays challenges is all new technologies, especially the AI, which is shaping a lot of our industry. So why do you feel like what is nowadays like your most common case of using AI, or how does AI helps Reborn to actually be more effective?
What an amazing 12 months it's been, right? I think ChatGPT launched last November. So it's been just an incredible 12 months of development, and makes your head spin just trying to keep up with all of the new technology and the changes and iterations of AI and different things coming out. I think, since it started, one of the things I've just loved doing is just talking with it and testing it and, trying different things out. And I think for me right now, on a personal level, it's almost like a thinking mate. So I will talk to it about different ideas or strategies. And, as I'm sort of starting to look at planning for 2024 and where we might go with the agency over the next 5 years, it's a really good sounding board, And so being able to sort of test strategic ideas, test what might work or not work, has been super useful.
Does it also scare you that it's changing so fast that it's so hard to plan what you're gonna do, because you never know, like in 2 months they comes up with something what can, for example, automate all the, PPCs or whatever.
100%. I don't think you would, I don't think I could confidently say I'm going to orientate my business just to AI something.
Of course,
I think I was listening to a podcast the other day, and one of the things they said was that, if you think about AI becoming almost ubiquitous with all software and technology, the net value of AI is zero. If everything has AI in it, there's obviously value, but there's almost no real differentiatable value.
So
I get you. Going to hitch your wagon to it unless you were developing the platform or the...
that's true. That's true. I had the same thinking about it. Like it seems like to saying about yourself being a digital agency, like it was so sexy 10 years ago, because there were like 80 agencies and I don't know, different types. And now they're saying digital, like most of us needs to be digital, at least somehow. I see the same thing, like saying about we use AI, like of course, everybody nowadays trying to use AI because it's going to be another email tool or something like that.
And it's already, largely integrated into so many parts of what we do.
True. You show me the Copilot in Windows because I am the Mac guy, so I never seen like the Windows
Copilot.
Copilot. It's worked well. It's one.
And so that's going to become more and more seamless, right? Like in everything we do, it'll just suggest or it'll do, and then the general population just goes along with that. I don't think they care.
And what do you feel about using the AI as the generator of the pictures and videos and in that part of creative process? Like, are you guys using it, or do you like it?
Absolutely. So I think conceptually it's a really great tool to be able to sort of bring ideas to life quicker. So obviously as an agency, we would have storyboarded things. We would have had an illustrator sketch something out. We would have maybe used stock imagery. So there was a generation process that happened to help us illustrate the concept that we were
Have you
selling.
seen in a couple last weeks or something what really surprised you in that process?
The text to video and the image to video stuff that's coming with Runway, and it's just incredible.
That's crazy, right?
That will really change the production process.
Yeah, I don't want to say we have this camera guy, this camera, but it's going to change at least part of the game.
Yeah.
And
but it's going to be interesting for brands and agencies alike to know, what is the role, and it doesn't mean you can just skip the creative and the strategic process. You really still need a good idea. Just because you can generate cats flying off buildings, building whatever, it doesn't make it a good idea, right? So that's still, it's an augmentation of the agency process. It's not a replacement.
Yeah, of course, I am 100%, and I also believe that as many options coming into the game, that as needed more is the strategy part there, because everyone can do so billion stuff, but to choose the right way. Because the time is still time. You don't have more time. I mean, you can scale it thanks to the fastener the process. But in the end of the day, as a brand or e-shop or whatever, you can do a bunch of things, not all of them. So you need to choose wisely, even with these possibilities.
And AI helps, iterate ideas and generate things, but you still need to have a human in the loop to make the right choice, to know the brand, to know who you're selling it to.
But even in the strategy process, I like this languages model like ChatGPT, because they know a lot of frameworks.
Yes.
And when when you are in that position that you are doing the strategy, most of us doing it in 2 a.m. morning. Yeah. Tomorrow morning is the first pitch time, and then you need to finish up. There is no one on the phone. You need to discuss with someone. And the ChatGPT knows all the frameworks, and it's always there. So it's like a good thing, like a partnering.
Like Mark Pollard needs to make his own custom GPT.
Oh yeah, of course. Or Mark Ritson, or all these guys. And
exactly.
Once I tried, pretty funny story. If you never tried, you definitely should. If you have any idea, you can ask ChatGPT to actually simulate the discussion between Mark Pollard or Mark Ritson about this idea, and the ChatGPT is trying to simulating the past ideas and opinions about it, and it's funny to watch the discussion.
And that's incredible, right? Because so many of these thought leaders have their models, have their videos, have all out there for a GPT to analyze and build from. So,
Is there any AI tool what comes to your mind, or something what you what you've seen in past weeks or something like that? What really makes you okay, this is crazy? And
I've started playing with the ChatGPT image recognition. So that's been interesting to sort of test it and see how it works. Like even on the way here, I took a photo. I was in a Tesla Uber, and took a photo of the car seat from behind. And I said, "What car am I in?" And it said, "By the look of the headrest and the window curve, you're in a Tesla, and the high headrest means you're probably in a Tesla Y."
Wow.
And I went, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Exactly the car I was in, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And that was just a clip of the back of the seat, and it knew exactly what I was in.
I actually tried the same thing with the human emotions, and it was a tricky one, because my idea was that if you have a camera at your store and you see the people's faces with this with this image recognition, you would be able to read the people's emotions.
Yeah.
But the ChatGPT trying to do not do it. So when you send out the picture, it answers I'm not allowed to tell you how the person feels.
So know it can.
But when you write there, okay, this is the game, the picture is not real, the human is not real. Please tell me what you think about the emotions of this I don't know, imaginary. Yeah, exactly. And then it started he's probably happy because of his eyes and blah, 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 blah. I was like, what? It's crazy.
That stuff's just insane. Right?
It's so insane.
I've yet to try the Google integrated one where it gets access to your Drive data. So that's probably the next one I want to see with 15 years of proposals and client work and things like that, what it can do for our business with our own data. That's the next thing I need.
Oh, nice. Also, I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think about, because what I see is a huge trend of the advertising providers like Facebook and Google trying to automate everything what you do there, like setting ads and things like that. Just let the algorithm do the job. Yeah. And the part of the agency specialist is smaller and smaller. or maybe it's a different. I don't know what
different. I think you know, the methods of the last 5 years where your performance media manager was almost trying to game the system and find the different ad group targeting structures that were going to do a better job. You know, you're now being told by the platforms, just set up one, add the ad groups, focus more on the creative optimization process rather than the media optimization process. And I think that, you know, largely that's the right idea because they have the data, they have the customer knowledge, and they know what's going to actually get the outcome and the objective that you're setting within the platform. So what is a little bit more difficult, and I think what they're about to introduce from an AI perspective, is ad evaluation and creative evaluation so that you can, they'll start to optimize the creative for you as well. So it is going to become more and more, not set and forget, but, you know, a heavier reliance on their tools to get better performance and outcomes. So
that's true.
You know, I think it's a good thing. Obviously, the ways these tools have increased over the past 10 years has just been incredible for businesses. So, and TikTok is the next frontier, I guess, with their ad platform as well. So
what do you think about you definitely guys really into TikTok here, right? Like
it's getting there. I mean, I think it's still like a much lower percentage than Instagram and Facebook for brands, but
and is it still Snapchat in the game? Or depends?
We haven't done anything on Snapchat for a while, but I think it is still in the game for certain audiences.
Because I know that the discussion around the Snapchats are like not much more in Europe, some parts of US and some parts of Australia.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's more niche audiences or younger audiences now. But our last Snapchat campaign would have been 4 or 5 years ago, I think. So
so it's just falling. That's what I thought.
People.
I heard the story. I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard the story that the youngies are just running that because they felt like they are safe from their parents and teachers that the application is too complicated for our ages. So What do you think actually about TikTok? Because the algorithm is pretty crazy good and it's working well in the real time with your preferences and all stuff.
Look, I mean, it's an incredibly interesting platform and space for content creators and for brands as well. I saw the other day that they're now going to introduce 30-minute videos, which means they're trying to shift the audience from the short form to now get longer engagement.
Maybe challenge YouTube a bit?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's really interesting to see. And they are pushing live and streaming a lot more. And, you know, you're seeing even gamers dual streaming from Twitch to TikTok at the same time. And
that's true.
You know, there's the vertical format for streaming provides some quite exciting opportunities for streamers to actually sort of change the way things are presented with their camera and the on-screen game.
That's true.
Things like that. So it's building and building and building. I think TikTok as a organization's investing a lot in agencies and making it quite
actually, a couple of days that we were together on the agency party. Thank you for taking me there.
Pleasure.
And I remember there was like also information about that they're starting some kind of TikTok shopping or something. Which is going to be also a game changer for eShops.
Yeah, absolutely. Social commerce is coming and coming and coming.
But it's interesting that Instagram tried that, but it doesn't work that much. Even, I don't know, but in Europe doesn't work that much.
Well, I mean, if you think about the different audience engagement points between those two platforms. So Instagram, much more about, you know, looking at the aesthetic, looking at what's beautiful, maybe discovering content, you know, around those sort of aesthetics and things like that. TikTok is much more one-to-one, a lot more content creators, and that, I think, opens up more permissibility for a direct selling relationship.
Oh, okay. That's true.
And that's certainly what's happening in some of the Asian countries which are adopting social commerce a lot quicker, is you're getting these almost home TV shopping network type scenarios going where people are live presenting, they've got an audience watching.
It's coming back the same stuff what we've seen with our parents in the television. It's like guys selling directly to the TV.
BBSN shopping network.
Yeah, that's true.
If you get order now, you get free steak knives, and they're doing that.
Yeah, they're
doing. They're literally selling, and they've got a bit of the drop culture happening. So,
definitely.
If we get 50,000 viewers, these shoes will become available for 5 minutes, and there's stuff like that going on, which, plays into the type of culture around TikTok, the scarcity, exclusivity that can come from a small community.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Instagram has the same capabilities to do that. Like, I just don't think it would shift to that model.
Yeah, that's true. They are still into, or how they are used is still into to make things looks the best.
Yeah, and it's not to say social commerce couldn't work on Instagram, but it won't be the same presenter model.
Yeah, I would expect that it's going to work for fashion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, I saw some numbers in Europe of social commerce of Instagram and it didn't work at all, like most of the stuff.
It's probably going to be access to a cart or a shopping experience rather than a personality-driven shopping experience.
Yeah.
Amazon's doing in the US with their shopping.
That's true. Yeah, that's so true. Oh, okay. When you compare this social media, are you guys working also with influencers, right?
Absolutely.
Can you see the trend? Like what we see in Europe is that there are a lot of money coming from the media to influencers. Like literally, there are also additional money, of course, but also I've seen the trend of moving some of the social media ad spends to the influencers.
Yeah, and I think to the same point before, TikTok requires a slightly different creative model, and influencers, content creators, particularly on that platform, allow brands a more suitable method to talk to consumers.
That's true.
So engaging a content creator to speak about the brand in their own way, whatever it might be, fits that channel a lot more.
Oh yeah, that's
rather than an ad or a ambassador-led ad, which might work on other channels. Particularly for social on TikTok,
do some of your clients still expect that you would be using like a Facebook formats on the TikTok and trying to reuse stuff?
Some campaigns, it's okay to put a mix.
Okay.
It's okay to have a brand ad with a reach and frequency objective.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the purpose of that ad, right? But if you want something that's slightly more different, longer dwell time, explain the product, it might be a new product, so you don't have as much brand awareness, then the content creator and influencer route is really strong.
Oh yeah. Do you have any like negative experience with influencers? I don't mean the one where you are dealing with them, but even like because there are also a lot of discussion around the brand safety. Because when you are connecting with some content creator or influencer with the brand and the connection is really strong, you put part of the brand safety on the table related to how the person behaves.
We've been quite lucky from a brand safety perspective. I can't think of any incidences where we've had to pull any campaigns, been worried about, whatever blowback. But I think most of the challenges is just when you're dealing with 10, 20, 50 different people, it's just a administrative part, right? And so coordinating that many people for a campaign, dealing with so many individuals, some of them have managers, others
checking their outputs.
So just that process, and there's a number of tools and platforms to help you do outreach and management, but still that process is still we
were actually discussing a lot with our AI team in Atlanta if we can find out some kind of tool what can help somehow with this part. Because when we are running, for example, the Eucerin campaign for Nivea, where you have 25 influencers, as you mentioned, you need to check every single one, all the outputs, comments, and hashtags. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Hashtag ad needs to be on everything in this market.
Yeah. Same. Actually, is it also here like being this kind of setting its paid partnership is part of the deal?
And that's probably if that happens, that's probably the main thing that could go wrong, is that influencer forgets to put that on there.
Oh yeah, okay. And then the other people will just like whistleblowing.
100%.
But that's the right thing in the end. Yeah. Okay, and influencers, have you ever chanced to try some kind of virtual influencer?
So no, I would love to. I think especially with some of the tech coming with face swap and it's just mid-journey creating characters and then being able to animate it in other software.
I believe it's going to blow because past couple of years they were just virtual influencer, but they were just like a CGI static personas made from really creative teams, like all these Mayas and I don't know what is the name of the girl from California, like virtual girl from the California made by the Broad company. But but nowadays when you can see what AI can do, that's gonna be
super fascinating.
Oh yeah.
And then, like you could have one social media person change the face, change the voice, change the whatever, and you've got multiple people for multiple brands then. So it's...
And you can also use all the data, what is actually nowadays hot, what's working, and then you put it into the personality. And that's crazy.
And although, in a lot of senses, I guess people might be worried about, well, if that changes employment opportunity and things like that. But in other ways, it's like playing dress up. It's just a virtual dress up mechanic, right? So instead of putting on a costume or animating a character, you're now doing it on top of a human.
That's true. I believe that one of my friends in Czech says something like that. In future, you are going to pay actually to have a chance to speak with human, because there will be so many virtual humans and supports and whatever, that the most valuable thing would be actually to get in touch with the human on the other side to help you to solve the problem. It's interesting idea.
So good, we just don't know and don't, as long as the problem's solved, right? So like I think we've all had experiences with chatbots and how frustrating they can be, and they just go in a loop.
Of course.
You just end up saying, talk to someone. You need to talk to someone. But
there was like a pilot project from Meta called Meta Celebrities, where they just used a couple of celebrities to make the chatbots from them, like Kardashian and Snoop Dogg and then these guys. But it didn't work well. I mean, like I read a couple articles about it and seen some comments under it, and it's not still there.
Right.
But it's damn good when I compare in the past couple of years where we were writing chatbots like a trees of information where you actually needed to have always like the combination of what you expect to answer. But nowadays, like the language model will just, and it's working. So
it's crazy. Like it's just getting more and more integrated.
When we're discussing all that, where you see actually the position, the agency, like especially the independent, but let's say more like a smaller agency with specialists in, where you see the position of agency in relationship to the client in the next couple of years?
Look, I mean, I think it's probably in a large way the same as it's always been. We need to, particularly in the digital space, we need to be at the forefront of what's happening, what's changing, and what's effective to help brands do what they need to do, which is to reach their customers and sell more. And I think that means even more so now, being on the forefront of the technology, the changes, and how that is changing the consumer behavior. So, we've been a part of that process since day one, whether it's been launching clients' email marketing programs, launching clients into Facebook for the very first time, or Instagram, or even now TikTok. Like it's always been, how do we help our clients get an advantage using technology and different tools and platforms to enhance their communication. So I don't think that's changed. I think it's probably getting more interesting because of the way the tools and technology is changing, but the role is still the same. Clients are busy, they have a lot of work to do with their internal business mechanics as well as their brands that they're working on, and an agency role is really to help augment what they're doing and bring the best of what's out there so that they don't need to think about everything.
I'm happy that you are saying that, but I believe that this kind of attitude was always the one coming from the first liners of the agency, like you being CEO or helping with consulting the strategy to the clients. So it was kind of natural to you. But what I see as a little bit behavioral change of people working in agency, that this behavior coming also to the teams where I wasn't before. Like graphic guy comes to me that trying another tool for actually reshaping his works, or creative people who used to just write words and doing copies and things like that, and now they're thinking how to use the ChatGPT to actually scale their work, because everyone is kind of a bit afraid also, which is in the end could be a good thing, because little disruption can
motivate people.
Do you see this
I agree. I think having that culture of experimentation inside a business, the ones that are keen to learn and test, that's, again, in the digital space, you have to have had people that were curious.
That's
right. Like
curious.
If you're not, then it's you. If you're not learning, you're not living, right? So that thing of curiosity. If you don't have that, it's very hard to stay afloat in this industry.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's 1 year or less now, things change pretty quickly. So you do have to stay on top of it. But to your point, like even just the design process, the implementation of Gen AI within Adobe's suite is incredible.
Like a Firefly, and also the part being of Photoshop, it's not anymore beta, it's already in the product, right?
It's in the product. So, and that's across Premiere, After Effects, everything has now got that sort of capability. And that's just one layer of what is going to become faster and faster and more integrated into tools that everybody's already using.
Yeah.
Canva, same thing,
Yeah, they did also an amazing job with all this like AI assistants and things like that. Yeah.
So, there's always been developments in the software and tools that people use, and everybody's got to stay on top of that because they're going to come quicker and quicker and quicker, I guess.
Yeah. Part of all this actually are like a lot of data, like billions of data, and everyone's trying to figure out how to work with them and make some meaningful output from them, because it's sometimes hard actually to find out the way how to read them and things like that. One of the things what scares me a bit in this kind of future view of how the marketing goes is like a predictive analytics. What is already happening, everyone knows that kind of weird feeling when you check the Facebook and you see something what you wouldn't expect. And you are like, oh my God, my phone is hearing me, someone recording me, because they know we talk to each other about something, and then now I see that. Like everyone knows. But this thing is going to be kind of worse and worse, because thanks to all the data, the predictive analytics and predictive marketing became more and more powerful. Is that something you or what do you think about it?
I think it's predictive, but it's also as data sources become more available to connect to. So in the retail marketing space, being able to connect to one of the two big loyalty data sets like Woolworths Rewards or Flybuys,
even credit cards,
things like that. From a programmatic standpoint, you could, for example, target people who haven't bought chocolate for 2 weeks because chocolate is typically a weekly cycle. And so if they haven't bought chocolate, then let's get chocolate ads in front of them, not just on the path to purchase, which is what it used to be when you would walk into Woolworths, see it at the front, or if you are on the online shopping website, you go through and you might see some ads, but now you'll see them in social. So you'll be reminded on websites. You will see everything that reminds you that you need to buy chocolate, before you get there. And is that scary? Yeah, I guess a little bit, but it's also, it is using your buyer's behavior to build the brands and buy more chocolate, sell more chocolate. So
it's kind of natural way how things goes.
Yeah.
That's true. When we are discussing all this, it's so hard to actually be still on top of all this information. Would you suggest some sources or the way how you actually gathering the top of the information to still run with this game and in touch with all of the news and things like that?
Look, podcasts and TikTok are probably the main things. I don't know if I've got specific. I think Riley Brown has been really quite good on TikTok as staying on top of a lot of the trends and showing what some of the tools can do. Podcasts, there is a couple of different sort of marketing AI podcasts that I sort of subscribe to, which I just dip in and out of and try to remember to listen to every week amongst, business podcasts.
So time consuming.
It is.
Like sitting in a podcast and saying like, all respects to everyone who is listening in this time, because I know it's time consuming and it's so hard to get in the end of the podcast. Like,
it's funny listening to some of the podcasts which are like, okay, I know we said this last week, but this week it's changed, and this, this.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing. Like it's still changing, so it's sometimes hard to like. That's also what I'm saying when I do like a AI work, like using AI for creativity workshops for our clients, and I always starting with like, guys, after this we can meet again after 2 weeks, and I will just tell you completely new stuff.
Exactly,
because the tools still change.
And that's exciting, right? Like because you are constantly learning and figuring out what's happening, and I guess it is important to remember that there is no set answer yet. It's all still being developed, and the software's changing, the companies are changing, everything that's being tested and rolled out is brand new. And there's a lot of, potential issues coming down the line for,
of course,
knowledge workers across the world and brand safety and all the sorts of other risks that are there from an ethics perspective. But it's exciting. It's
also puts a lot of pressure to the universities, because as they are not like the fastest one in adapting. It's kind of tricky part, but a lot of them like trying to deal with that good and inviting people from the businesses to telling what's new with AI and stuff like that. Regarding all this, when you said it could be like a more opportunities than the challenges, where you see the future of the Reborn now?
It's a good question. I think it's still being written. So very much digital, creative, and media at the moment. And where my head's at is definitely staying in a space where we're able to connect those two. I think, as I sort of touched a little bit on, the retail media network space is very, very interesting to me right now, because it takes the best of what we've been doing with some of our FMCG clients in digital marketing, and leverages a lot of the data and media propositions that are coming out of Coles and Woolworths. So I think I'm trying to figure out what that space is for us. There's a lot of deep technology partners that are sort of being built around that, and a big space for social and content and creative. And I think that connection of brand data and sales through Coles and Woolworths is a really interesting space. So that's where my head's sort of at, but it's still early days. It's being a sole owner of the agency. There's a lot to sort of take on when it comes from running the business to
of course,
being in the business and on top of it as well. So working with a group of advisors at the moment to try and sort of see what the next 5 years holds for us. And
and as we mentioned a couple of times, like it's still changing, so the opportunities like popping even every single day, and you every single day opening email and stuff and see all the news what the tools can do.
And it's not about like chasing the next shiny thing. It's
that's true.
It's still got to be done with caution and respect to IP and the team, and not making them pulled from pip to post because there's so many new tools and technologies.
That's probably this as we discussed. That's probably something what comes to the mind. People who actually started super fast AI agencies, called it somehow like it's going to be AI agency for something, and nowadays they realize that's probably the thing what they want to do is now available for everyone. So there is no like USP anymore.
I think it would be a hard thing to attach your whole proposition to. I mean, obviously a consulting type thing to advise on it, you could, but as a service offering, I don't know.
And when you're thinking about being more local than goes global, like Australia based global thinking agency, or is it more like still, I don't know, 80% Australia, then 20% through the clients around?
The majority of the clients that we have are focused on the Australian audience. So it is still an Australian outcome for our service, but the clients themselves are based globally or globally. So and that's worked well, whether it's American companies coming into Australia or global, it's still about the Australian audience for us, I think.
And there's still kind of what I've seen, a huge relation between America and Australia. Like even in advertising, I've seen a lot of advertising pros coming from Australia going to America doing jobs and coming back, and things like that. So it's working well, right? This connection.
Definitely.
I believe it's also because you all guys speak English, and you have all and all the professors loves to fight to each other what is the right way how to do the stuff and things like that. But it's
and there's obviously good similar maturity levels in terms of the communication effectiveness and advertising industries and things like that. So
that's really good. Okay, David, thank you so much for sharing all the information and sharing all the insights and thoughts.
Absolute pleasure. Really nice to be on this, and
and thanks to everyone who actually are listening all the episode, and thank you guys for being with us. Feel free to put there any kind of comments and question, whatever. You can find out David on the LinkedIn, ask him directly. You can find out me. And thank you at NetherMotion for supporting this podcast, even here in Australia. And that's pretty much it for today. So guys, follow us and share some love. There is no advertisement, there is no paywall. So it's just supported by your energy, our energy, and we love it. So thanks again.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.